Hey everyone, and happy Halloween. Sort of. This is the culmination of my Halloween special for 2022, where I'll be looking at arguably the best VTM video game, Bloodlines. This was developed by Troika Games and published by Activision in November 2004. Funny fact, this game came out on the exact same day as Half-Life 2 and uses the same game engine, the Source engine. And we all know how kick-ass Half-Life 2 is. So this should be similar, so let's begin. Actually, let's go over some stuff first. Bloodlines was in a pretty sorry state when it came out and patches were slow to arrive. Troika Games went out of business soon after release, so fans of the game took up the mantle and made unofficial patches that tries to provide the best possible experience. I played the GOG version of this game without the unofficial patch for this video, though previous playthroughs were done on the Steam version with the unofficial patch. There are subtle differences that I will outline as I proceed through the video. So the game starts up and we can create a character either by answering questions or choosing the clan we want to play as and invest in skills at the character sheet. As an aside, getting the unofficial patch provides you with a walkthrough of the game as well as a lot of additional information such as clan details and which ones are good starting points. For my first playthrough, I used the questions and ended up playing as a Nosferatu, which isn't recommended for first timers. So I got to play the game on hard mode, so to speak, on my first run through of this game. The second playthrough used the character sheet and a Malkavian for all of the insanity that brings. Here I mixed it up and played as a clan that I haven't played as before, seen as enemies in previous games, the Tremere. One thing the unofficial patch adds are histories, which provides a backstory of sorts to the character which can have an effect on the gameplay. For example, you can have a Malkavian with the ninja history, which means you aren't able to use firearms throughout the game but get extra experience invested in brawl and melee from the get-go. The character sheet is complex with the amount of options there are, so I won't outline all of them, though they are self-explanatory and you can get an idea of which stats get raised via the various choices. There's 3 disciplines per clan as well, with some being covered in previous VTM videos such as Obfuscate, Auspex, Celerity and more. Again, due to how many there are, I won't go over all of them, plus leveling disciplines up can unlock new possibilities, so it will take me all day to go over all of this. All clans have blood buff, which temporarily increases the strength, dexterity and stamina stats for the cost of a small amount of blood. The unofficial patch adds another discipline called Blood Heal, which increases health regeneration for a short period for the cost of a little blood. I can't stress how useful this is, as the only other way to restore health points is to wait or consume blood from packs that you have to purchase. I should probably get to the story now. With the character created, we see how the story starts. It begins with an intimate scene and pretty kinky too. However, we get embraced by our lover? This turns us into the vampire we created previously, but we get a stake through the heart immediately afterwards. I believe some of these characters are different if you use the unofficial patch. Such an action renders us unconscious, and when we come to, we're in a gathering of some description. Some of these characters will be discussed later on in the video. We have Prince Lecher talking about the Camarilla and the Masquerade, then orders the execution of our sire in accordance to the 3rd tradition. This should mean we're next in line on the chopping block, but Nines Rodriguez interjects and the prince spares our own life. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but that reminds me of the carpet I had at my old house, no joke. Lecher informs us that our first mission is in Santa Monica and that we must meet up with one of his agents, Mercurio. A guy named Jack greets us outside and wants to show us the ropes, so we can either reject his offer or play the tutorial. Take a listen here.
A lot for you to take in, so why don't you let me show you the ropes? What do you say?
That's right, only the legendary John DiMaggio is Jack, which makes this game amazing by default. The tutorial is self-explanatory. It goes over all of the necessary mechanics of the game like lockpicking, hacking, feeding, stealth, your disciplines and fighting. If you want to learn more about this, you can research this on your own terms, but what I will say is managing your blood usage is critical in this game. In addition, there is a humanity meter and a masquerade violation count, where low humanity increases the odds of frenzying and you become more assholish to everyone. Masquerade violations are where you reveal your true vampire nature to humans, which can include feeding on humans in public or using disciplines around mortals. You have 5 chances, otherwise the game is over. However, there are opportunities to acquire a Masquerade Redemption, whereby you remove a masquerade violating item from humans. So after the tutorial, we arrive at our digs where we can find a message from the Tremere Regent Strauss, who I will get to later, and a laptop where we can access our emails. Then we go and see Mercurio, who is crawling into his apartment after some sort of brutal incident. We see him and he confesses he lost some explosives that are critical for our mission, so we have to get them back. We do this and return to Mercurio, where he tells us to find a Nosferatu named Bertram Tung, but he is currently in hiding from the Baron of the area, Therese Foreman. She's in the asylum, so we go there and hey baby, how are you doing? I'd totally like to go with you to someplace nice and private and do all sorts of unspeakable acts. Maybe. This bitch is Jeanette Vorman, the slutty sister of Therese, who leaves after an introductory talk, and we follow her to meet Therese, who won't help us for nothing. We have to recover an object of importance from a haunted house before she will help. The music that plays here is pretty kick-ass. It's isolated by Chiasm. Plus, if you dance at a club for 5 minutes, you restore a point of humanity. However, this can only be done once per club. So let's go ghost busting. So this is sufficiently spooky and indeed haunted, with very creepy ambience. If there's one thing I have to say I love about Bloodlines, it's the mood. This is fucking brilliant. The music even adds to the mood, providing feelings of anxiety and spookiness. An amazing attempt, let me tell you. So we find the object and return to Therese, only to see Jeanette. She tries to throw a pity party, so you can either give in to her demands or hold on to the item of importance for Therese. Keep in mind, you can fail missions in this game, so be careful about what you do. Jeanette asks you to slash some paintings at an art gallery which depicts the slaying of Abel, curse of Cain, and so on. Slash the paintings in the correct order to summon the Blood Guardian, which we kill, and then we return to Therese, who is pissed at us for what we just did. You see, the gallery was her doing. Jeanette went into hiding and we have to find and reassure her that everything is okay. We go to this diner when we get surprise attacked. It turns out Jeanette is in trouble and is with Therese, so we must go back and talk to them. Then we get this. Yeah, the sisters are 2 souls coexisting in one body, somehow, and we must decide how things play out. We can let Therese take control, Jeanette take control, or by using careful dialogue choices throughout our interaction, save both of them. Regardless, Tung can now be located, so we meet with him about our next destination, a Sabot warehouse. No one else knew where this place was apparently, hence why we had to do everything we just did to get here. Also, if LaCroix knew we had to take out a Sabot warehouse from the beginning, how would he know about it, or if it's even true, without any idea where it's located? Couldn't he send us here immediately or what? I don't know, let's carry on. This introduces us to 2 ways that we can play the game, by using stealth or by going in all guns blazing. Both are perfectly valid strategies, however you don't gain XP from killing enemies, so you can avoid this if you want to. Here all we have to do is plant the explosives and get the hell out of there before it all goes BOOM! Then a wolf comes up to us and transforms into a humanoid. This is Beckett, a vampire historian who has a little chat. After this, we leave to go downtown. We get attacked by the Sabot immediately, who are angry at us for destroying their warehouse. Nines shows up to save our ass though. Before we get downtown though, I know I haven't covered any side missions. Yeah, there's supplemental missions to do in this game that reward you with extra experience and money, plus the unofficial patch adds even more content to complete. Some of these missions are pretty good, they're definitely worth doing in my opinion. I won't be covering most of them here because I'll be here all day, but I'll only focus on a couple that are needed for important choices later. Take meeting E at the beach in Santa Monica. The only reason to take on this quest to find Lily is to see this.
Yeah, that's predictable.
So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's continue onwards. We can meet Maximilian Strauss, who left us a note in our apartment who informs us about an epidemic going around. That's why there's hazmat wearing dudes scattered around the place. You can get this info from a girl named Damsel, who is an anarch. I'll periodically talk about this set of side quests throughout the video. I like the downtown music that plays, it's kick-ass awesome. We see LaCroix, who tells us about a ship called the Elizabeth Dane, which supposedly has an item of unimaginable significance called the Ankaran sarcophagus. This is a very important artifact in this game and the prince wants to be sure that it is here, so we venture out to the Dane and figure out what's going on. It looks as if someone, or something, escaped. Not ominous at all. We report this back to LaCroix, who will review our intel. He then tasks us with locating and establishing contact with the Malkavian Primogen, Grout. How about a little sidestep? The start of the Plague Bearer quest tasks us with finding Paul the Ghoul, who is unfortunately dead. We can meet a girl living in the apartment above Paul's, who tells us about a chick she recently met going by the name Jezebel Locke. This bitch is at the Empire Hotel, so we find her and put her down. Or she puts us down first, whatever. This doesn't solve the problem, so there's more plague bearers to deal with. We can talk to a bum in the streets who tells us about a monster living in the sewers, so we venture down there to find this crazy vampire. As with the previous bitch, we eliminate him. One thing I want to say here is that unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of the combat in this game. I'll get to worse fights later, but let's just say that if you're not investing points into combat abilities, your life is going to be hell when you get to the end game. Defeating the monster allows us access to their base of operations, which is to say that we'll find the leader of this epidemic here. I'll point out a girl named Pisha too, who has to consume the flesh of mortals as well as their blood. I don't know what she is, but she tasks you with finding 2 items which will be exchanged for more useful items later. So great, let's prepare for insanity. Wait, Nines is here. Why exactly? Keep this in mind. Grout seems to be a very articulate and intellectual guy. These audio logs are pretty complex as this guy knows his stuff. I like him already. We explore the mansion, fighting off insane ladies and BDSM looking freaks who all want us dead for some reason. Holy shit, what a beautiful view of the city. This was in 2004 by the way. I love seeing stuff like this. It adds a sense of depth to the world, that there's other activities going on outside of this story. Amazing. After this sequence, which seems to depict Grout's wife in stasis, we find Grout, dead. Then this asswipe shows up wanting to kill Grout, then sets his mansion on fire. Damn, Grunfeld Bach doesn't mess around now, does he? We escape and return to the prince. Or the anarchs, so you can get their reactions to this news. LaCroix wants us to go to the local museum and recover the Ankaran sarcophagus so it's safely in the Camarilla's hands. But let's round off this plague bearer shit. We go into this building and fight our way through zombies to reach the mastermind behind this whole operation, Bishop Vic, who looks crazy as fuck. When I said I don't like the combat in this game, here is a clear example why. Vic uses celerity to run away like a bitch and has a shotgun which is seriously damaging. And what can we do? Pot shot him, that's what we do. So we have to play like this just to deal damage and not die, which sure isn't a fun way to play this game. I'll say this though, the combat is the worst aspect of this game. I said the same thing about Redemption, but this game handles the combat way better. But to me, it still leaves much to be desired. Now you might be saying to yourself, why don't you like it? Well, weapon recoil sucks, but I understand why it's present. Dealing damage is based off RNG, even with bladed weapons or dealing aggravated damage. It doesn't do that much damage, but if it happens to you, you're fucked. Plus, without the unofficial patch, you don't have blood heal, so you can't really recover health during the fight. Unless you use a blood pack, but these are hard to come by. So the bishop falls and we return to Strauss and Damsel to report on our actions. This puts us in positive standing with both the Camarilla and the Anarchs, plus we can decide whether or not we want to side with the Anarchs. I strongly believe Bloodlines wants us to side with the Anarchs, as they are the reason why we're still alive and their members, like Jack, have helped us from the beginning. Alright, museum time and wah! Ha, very funny. A jump scare dinosaur, just waiting to pounce on you when you least expect it. I admit that was actually awesome. The steps needed to get to the sarcophagus though, nowhere near as nice, especially if you don't have obfuscate. I eventually gave up and made a mad dash for the exit. Funnily enough, on the other side of the wall where the item for Pisha is the room with the sarcophagus. But of course, it's not here because someone else got here first. Beckett is here too, somehow, and we have a little chat before we go to the prince, who is furious that the sarcophagus was stolen. He blames the Nosferatu, especially one named Gary, for this. We are tasked with going to Hollywood to find Gary and figure out where the sarcophagus is. Our next stop is Hollywood, where some random guy greets us and tells us to go to Isaac, who is the Baron of the area. Isaac doesn't like the Camarilla and is sided more with the Anarchs. He's after a videotape and asks us to retrieve it for him. A chick named Samantha talks to us, convinced she recognises us from before our embrace. If you don't convince her you're not who she believes you to be, she will try to phone someone, which will result in a Masquerade violation. Anything you do to stop her will be a Masquerade Redemption, so choose what to do carefully. Anyway, this shady guy surrenders the tape and disappears into the sewers, where we see a severed arm. That's a good omen, isn't it? You can do a mission for Romero here, where we have to prevent zombies from breaking out of the cemetery, like it's Night of the Living Dead or something. We obtain the tape and it shows this. Now that was fucking horrifying. Isaac tells us this wasn't the full video, so we have to find a copy of the complete tape. This takes us to the Sin Bin, a porno shack ran by a real scumbag. We can coax information out of him, or by looking into his computer, which suggests an unknown caller rings a payphone with a mysterious phrase. Well, we do this and find a bloodbath, with a key to the back rooms of the internet cafe. We get attacked by horrifying monsters, the same ones as were shown in the video. We fight our way to this guy who becomes a shadow figure, then obtain a copy of the complete tape. Isaac recognises the location of the house in the video as being at King's Way, so that's the next stop. Isaac can also tell us about a gargoyle who is being a nuisance in the local Asian theatre, which we can deal with. However, we can return to Strauss for a conversation about this. You see, the gargoyle is a creation of the Tremere for protection, but it seems this one has gone rogue. He pleads us not to tell Isaac about this. Remember this detail, as it is critical for obtaining the Tremere Haven as a Tremere or for siding with the Camarilla later on. The long story short, we kill the gargoyle and decide whether to grass up Strauss or not. Alright, the Hell House. It looks all nice on the outside, but inside, damn, what the hell happened here? Maybe this thing is responsible. Feast your eyes on the Sabbat Leader, a monster who can create these creatures of flesh at will. We have to fight him to proceed, however we can actually side with this thing, but only in the unofficial patch and only if your humanity rating is low. It goes without saying you have to act like a real asshole to bring your humanity down. After this confrontation, we are free to proceed onwards towards the Warrens. Here you have to fight your way past waves of disgusting creatures to reach the Nosferatu. There's also doors you can find that take you back to Hollywood, in case you need to go back for any reason. In the unofficial patch, there's a shortcut you can take which brings you pretty much to the Nosferatu, but you need either good hacking or know the password. Otherwise, you have a ballbuster of a section to play. I won't outline every last detail, but let's just say it involves fighting, falling, running, swimming and luck. If you can traverse this death trap, then congratulations, you're at the Nosferatu's hideout. We talk with an imaginary friend here, or Gary, who tells us to rescue one of his own by the name of Barabbas from Chinatown. So let's go and introduce ourselves to their Baron, a Krajian by the name of Ming Zhao. She tells us about herself and her sort of vampiric condition, then suggests we go to the Red Dragon restaurant. Then we see a girl getting kidnapped for some reason. We can go to this shop owned by Seng, who is absolutely awesome by the way.
Selling remedies is honest work. I came to America after discharge from Chinese herbal remedies forces to help aging parents restore. Definitely I am now American citizen. God bless the Allegiance flag!
I like this guy. Anyway, we see the owner of the Red Dragon, Wong Ho, who tells us his daughter was taken by the Tong, a street gang local to Chinatown. So we rescue her because we're decent people, then return to Wong, who tells us to go to a man named Zhao, the person Wong Ho got his information from. He tells us to go to the leader of the Tong, Johnny, but we are attacked and have to escape the firefight. So we make our way to Johnny, but the man we're after is behind the screen, someone going by the name of the Mandarin. They know what we are, which isn't a good thing. He's in the Fu Syndicate building, so that's the next stop. I wasn't joking when I said this guy knows about us, as he's set out a series of tests to establish the most efficient way of exterminating the kindred. We wait for our chance to escape and take it, then kill everyone because we can. Barabbas is not too far away and we release him and escape. Gary phones up and reveals he gave both the Prince and the Giovanni clan information about the Ankharan sarcophagus's location, and obviously the Giovanni clan got there first. Their mansion is the next stop. There's ways to get inside, it's just a case of how many dudes you want to fight or talk to. Plus, there's an item for Pisha here which you would want to take. I haven't talked about items that grant you stat boosts. Whatever the case, we find access to the basement where there's zombies. So fight off the living undead and reach a chamber holding the Ankharan sarcophagus. But what's this? There's two Krajian agents here saying the Prince had an agreement with Ming Zhao. Interesting. Talking them down doesn't work, so a fight to the death is in order. Again, the combat sucks and it shows here, as the best way to fight these fuckers is to backtrack to the start of the level and bait them to you. If you need to recover health, just wait near the entrance and they won't come near you. I demonstrate that here. But with time and effort, they fall and the sarcophagus is in our hands, meaning we return it to the Prince for, safekeeping. We chat with Beckett about the sarcophagus and it won't open for some reason. So we have to locate an expert, Dr. Johansson, who has been snatched by the Society of Leopold. You know what has to happen. We go in, save the doctor, and get out in one piece. These caverns are a fucking bitch to get past without obfuscate, so I ended up utilising a time-saving strategy. Or build up enough speed for 12 hours to enter a parallel universe. Of course, it's not that easy as Bach is back to try and kill us. He keeps blinding us and running away like a pussy, plus for a human, he has a lot of health for some reason. This fight ain't nice. But Bach dies and we converse with the doctor about the sarcophagus. It turns out you need a key to open it, but the key is missing. We can choose to leave the doctor behind or take him with us, but Bach decides to blow us up instead. We have a very tight window of time to reach this boat to escape, and apparently the game can crash from the level transition. This didn't happen to me, thankfully. I thought I would make people aware of this. We go back to the prince and see a fight happened as there's blood all over the place. It turns out the Sabbat attacked and are holed up in the Hallowbrook Hotel, so we're tasked with flushing them out for good. These undead fucks are a real pain in the ass, however you can obtain the best melee weapon in the game here. Not in the unofficial patch though, you can get it later. If you found Heather in the hospital at the start of the game and turned her into your ghoul, after you learn about how to do it of course, then she's here. And dies. Okay, now these pieces of fuck need to die. Essentially, we meet the Sabbat leader again and kill him. If you used the unofficial patch and sided with this guy at Kingsway, you can decide to side with the Sabbat instead of fighting them. Outside, Ming Zhao greets us and she tells us that she impersonated Nines earlier and killed Grout. We can choose how to feel about this, but let's play nice for now. We relay this intel to the prince, who immediately cuts ties with the Kuei Jin and wants to establish a pact with the Anarchs, plus calls off the blood hunt against Nines. With this, we see the Anarchs at the last round, where another piece of kick-ass music plays called Lecher Bitch by the Genitorturers. Call of Duty Pinball? It's the best Call of Duty game, don't you know? Damsel tells us the location of Nines, Griffith Observatory. I've said it before, but damn are these views nice. We find Nines and tell him about the Alliance, but something bad happens. Someone, or something, set a fire, and instead of heeding Nines' words, we constantly question him. Then this happens. Yep, my character is a dumbass. As it turns out, Nines fled to werewolf country where no one would go looking for him, and now we have a werewolf to evade for 4 minutes. This section is assy, pretty much because the werewolf cannot really be harmed and is powerful as hell, plus the timer is when the cable car starts to get to us, not when it actually arrives. But there is a way for the werewolf to be killed. We turn the power on and crush the werewolf by using the observatory's doors. This allows us to leave quicker. We escape to see Jack, who has some pretty heavy shit to drop on us. Supposedly, we are responsible for killing Nines and the prince has called a blood hunt against us. We have to fight through the streets of Santa Monica and reach the taxi driver to escape to the endgame. Keep in mind, the sewers are locked down. Oh yeah, the sewers. If you play as a Nosferatu, you have to travel through the sewers as your physical appearance threatens the masquerade when in public. Speaking of the sewers, sometimes the water glitches out. Yeah, I don't know why. Only the Tremere and Nosferatu have unique havens. The Tremere have a room at Strauss's pad and the Nosferatu have a room in the downtown sewers, which is available after rescuing Barabbas from the Foo Syndicate. All other clans can get a skyline apartment by being nice enough to LaCroix, or the starting apartment in Santa Monica. Here you can stash away items, listen to the radio or the news and read emails. So yeah, you have no choice but to fight through the streets. Thankfully this is no longer a masquerade violating zone, so express yourself to your heart's content. We reach the taxi driver and now we have to think carefully about our next move. Here we are, the end game. This is where we talk with the taxi driver about our thoughts. Most of the choices play out the same, with 2 exceptions. Siding with the prince and siding with Ming Zhao. You're only allowed these options if you've been super nice to both throughout the game. Then there's siding with Strauss, the Anarchs, the Sabbat in the unofficial patch, and no one but yourself. In these cases, you have to confront Ming Zhao to get the sarcophagus key and take on the prince and the sheriff and determine the fate of the sarcophagus. Because I played as a Tremere, I sided with Strauss. I'll show off the other endings too. So we arrive at Ming Zhao's hideout and have to fight our way inside. Apparently, there's another potential bug here where this sliding bar won't move, forcing you to cheat to be able to proceed. The unofficial patch removes this entirely. Thankfully, I didn't have any issues with this. Then there's a jade statue puzzle and when solved, opens up a portal to the worst part of Bloodlines. Ming Zhao transforms into this horrid monstrosity that has way too much health and deals way too much damage, plus has unblockable attacks I think, and when one of its tentacles is slashed off with the best melee item in the game, clones of this creature move around and eventually grow into a clone of the original fuckface. I hate this, mostly because you could have invested in a character that doesn't fight, only to be bombarded with combat in the endgame. Also, this boss has way too much health. Even the best weapons in the game with blood buff don't do much damage, so you either need to cheat or get really lucky. If you can somehow survive this shit show, then congratulations, you obtain the key to the Onkaran sarcophagus. If you sided with Lecher, you would get his ending immediately. If not, then taking on the prince is next. Also, siding with Ming Zhao starts from the point I will outline in a moment, so none of this would need to be done, which to me makes that the easiest ending in the game. So, we arrive at Lecher's tower, but the elevators are locked down and security is waiting in the lobby to gun your ass down, so we have to be quick and efficient. There's more fighting and we eventually reach the sheriff, who isn't that difficult to take down. But when he's close to dying, he transforms into this giant bat somehow and the fight is taken outside. The strategy is to activate spotlights to blind the bat, causing it to fall. Then attack away, all while avoiding gunmen and vampires. Kill the bat and then the game is over. You choose how to handle the prince and happy days. So, the endings. I sided with Strauss, so when we're finished with the prince, he shows up and hides the sarcophagus away, so no one would ever go looking for it. Siding with Ming Zhao shows her teleporting into the room and the execution of the prince, then the sarcophagus is thrown into the ocean with us strapped to it. The spot ending is the same except we're not strapped to the sarcophagus. If you side with Lecher, you open the sarcophagus, and if you sided with the Anarchs or yourself, you have a choice to open it or leave the prince alone to open it. Bearing in mind we were given ample warning not to open the sarcophagus by Beckett and even this mysterious friend who emails us throughout the game. When the sarcophagus is opened, this is what's inside. Yeah, somehow the sarcophagus was filled with explosives by Jack. Now how in the hell did this happen? Then we get an end scene with Jack, the dead guy that was formerly inside the sarcophagus, and the taxi driver who has a strange aura about him. Then we get the end credits. Now I have a couple theories here. First off, how Jack got the explosives inside the sarcophagus. Remember how I mentioned the emails from a friend earlier? There's one that goes, a true master has played the entire game before the first move. My speculation is that Jack and maybe even the taxi driver were the ones responsible for what happened on the Elizabeth Dane, and everyone just believed what they wanted, that an ancient vampire was asleep inside. This whole ruckus was over nothing really. So Jack got the ancient out, made it look like he escaped, then planted the explosives and left everything else where it was for the Quajian and Giovanni to grab later. Now the taxi driver. This could be the one and only Kane himself. Now why would he be a taxi driver? To make himself seem as innocent and non-threatening as possible, considering he's the oldest and strongest vampire ever. This is reinforced by the game files holding the taxi driver's audio in a folder named Kane, but also the crazy interactions a Malkavian can have. Although, surely a Malkavian could have coaxed something out of Jack if this was the case. Speaking of a Malkavian character, plus if you play Bloodlines using the unofficial patch, you'll see cables wobbling all over the place, which I honestly thought was a glitch at first, plus you can talk with the news anchor and argue with a stop sign. These are all real things in this game, solidifying Malkavian insanity. Also, I recorded my footage as a .mkv file, and I know it's a Matroska file, but I can't help but want to refer to it as a Malkavian file because of Bloodlines. Overall, this game is fantastic. The level design, mood, ambience, atmosphere, sound, characters, story and progression are all brilliant. The one thing that sucks to me is the combat, which I don't like. I'm sorry, but a melee invested character with the best melee weapon in the game with blood buff shouldn't be decreasing Mingzhou's health bar by the length of a gnat's penis with every hit. Think what you want, I feel as if this is the weakest aspect of this game and has a negative impact on the gameplay experience, but every other aspect shines so bright that it doesn't really matter when brought all together. So Bloodlines is the best VTM video game in my opinion, and I hope this video does a good job explaining why I believe this to be the case. Now here's the part where I do a surprise segment about Bloodlines 2, which is a real game, right? Well, let me tell you this. I showed a clip from Nightmind earlier, and I'll use his excellent video about Tender to tell you what happened. So Tender was an ARG which culminated in the announcement of Bloodlines 2, scheduled to launch in 2020. However, there were development complications and the project was nearly shelved. Key personnel left and it was unsure what happened, but it seems as if the game is in the works but is in such a state that nothing can be shown. So that's where Bloodlines 2 is. Hopefully it's coming, and hopefully it's as good as the first Bloodlines, but let's wait and see. Well everyone, here we are, the end of the road. You don't want to know how many hours I pumped into making these videos over the course of the last 2 months, even with real life stuff going on which reduced the amount of time I could spend on these VTM videos. I apologise if this video and the video on Swansong were subpar. These videos went down to the wire with their production, like changes being made on the day of the upload to YouTube. I easily spent over 100 hours putting everything together, doing the research, playing the games, writing and narrating scripts and editing the videos. I'll be sure to follow up with any details I omitted in a future video. All I can end this with is, thank you for watching. Sincerely, thank you. I hope future videos don't end up going through such a time constrained process, but sometimes there's things you can't prepare for. Please consider buying me a coffee to show a sign of support for the work that went into making this 4-part Halloween special for 2022, and subscribe so you won't miss out on future uploads. I don't know what's next. I think I'll take a break for the time being. Thank you for watching. Please let me know what you think, and take care out there.